Hello folks, welcome to the Edupedia world and I am Abhinay Gupta. So today again we'll continue with the amendments in the company law. Right? So I hope you have been through the other classes that were taught and uploaded before this lecture. Right? Because we are following a pattern, we are following a series. So it is recommended that you complete the other lectures before you move on to this. Right? So what we have basically covered in the previous lectures is the entire amendment that refers to the section 8 companies, the not-for-profit companies, right? Those have already been covered in the initial 2 to 3 lectures, and then after that we had also started with discussing the exemptions given to the private companies, right? So, and we have covered basically 2 sections from that in the previous lecture, and today we'll be covering the rest of them. We'll try to cover at least 3 to 4 sections today, right, in this lecture, and in a subsequent lecture we will cover up with the entire exemption of the private company as well, right? So what have we discussed in the previous class in the exemption to the private companies, right? We have discussed section 2 subsection 7, section 2 clause 76. So do you remember what section 2 clause 76 dealt with? Yes. Section 2 clause 76 basically refers to the definition of your related party transaction, right? You could link it to section 188, that is the section that deals with the procedures for the related party transactions, and the definition for that, the definition for your related party transaction is covered in section 2 clause 76, right? So we have covered the entire definition that day in the previous lecture, and we have seen that the point number 8, right, which actually refers to the group companies. Now what is a group company? Group company would include your holding, your subsidiary, your associate, your joint venture, and another subsidiary of your holding, right? These companies are basically considered as group companies, okay? And in the case of private company, we had seen that a private company had an exemption from following the provisions of section 188 with respect to the group companies, right? That means if a private company is entering into any transaction with its holding or its subsidiary or associate or JV or anybody, then it need not pass a board resolution every time, or even the shareholders resolution, right? And we have seen that the basic reason behind that exemption was in day-to-day life they may have a lot of transaction with the group companies. They may be sharing the common resources, they may be sharing the manpower. One may be a production unit, the other may be a selling unit, whatever be the case, right? Because basically if it's in case of private companies specifically, right, they are privately held companies. There are 2 to 3 directors, and those 3 people, they privately hold the entire company, and they may open up a subsidiary, or they may have an associate or get into a JV, that too with the related people basically, and that is basically done to ease their work or share resources or gain some additional resource. So they will actually get into a day-to-day transaction. There will be a day-to-day relation with the group companies, and to ease out the procedure, the Companies Act has said that now you don't need to follow the procedure of following a board of passing a board resolution for every time you enter into a transaction with the group companies, right? Because it is deemed that yes, a private company will enter into a transaction, okay? But again, remember, they have not exempted other private companies or other public companies in which your director is a director or a manager or a relative or whatever the reason we have seen, because that other private company is not your group company. That is not formed for the same purpose, right? You may have one common director, but that is not a group company. You may not have a day-to-day relationship with that company, right? So if you are having a transaction with that company, that will be an occasional transaction. For that, please pass a board resolution or a shareholder resolution if necessary, right? Then next we had seen section 160. Section 160 dealt with the appointment of a person who is not a retiring director, right? So if a person who is outside the company, who is not a retiring director, if he wants to come onto the board of a private company, right, we know that they have to send a notice that has to be sent 14 days in advance. If they don't send a notice, any member can send a notice on their behalf, but along with them a general provision says that they have to deposit an amount of rupees 1 lakh, right? And that provision, the deposition of 1 lakh, has been exempted for the private company, and we have discussed in detail why is it so. Because there will never be a chance of forfeiting that 1 lakh rupees. So it is a mere formality of routing it through the company's account. So let us be done with that cumbersome process. Let us avoid it. We know that we have no other route out of it. So if there is just one way, then we follow that one way. We don't need any exemptions for that. We don't need any conditions for that, right? Next we have section 162, 180, 84, 85, 88, 196 and section 141 subsection 3G. These are the other sections where you have exemptions relating to the private companies, right? So let us see what section 162 has to offer. So section 162, appointment of directors to be voted individually. I hope all of you remember the provisions of 162. It was a very small section saying just one thing, that you cannot pass a single resolution appointing two or more directors, right? Because what will happen is, if there are 3-4 directors who need to be appointed or who are standing for the directorship, A, B, C, D, and you have just one resolution, either appoint all 4 of them or remove all 4 of them. You don't have a choice if all 4 are being voted for with a single resolution. So if, for example, you don't want C into your board, you have no option. If you don't want C, either reject all the rest of the 3 of them or include C, right? So for that convenience, what the Act says as per section 162 is that every director A, B, C and D will have to be voted individually. So if you want to keep A, vote for him. If you don't want to keep A, don't vote for him. If you want to keep B, C, D, whomever you want to keep, you can vote individually. You have that right. Now there is no clubbing process. There is no 1+1 offer. That yeah, if you buy this, you get this free. No, there is nothing like that. If you buy this, you are getting that. So if you are voting for one director, he will be elected, right? So that was the reason why section 162 came into force. And what would happen if you do not follow section 162? If they are not voted individually, that voting would be void. That appointment would be void. It would be an invalid appointment, right? But now, is there any provision by which you can actually pass a single resolution? Is there a condition given for that? Yes, there has been given an exception, that if you want to pass a single resolution appointing 2 or more directors, then you will have to get that approved. And where do you get that approved? You get that approved in the general meeting itself. And how do you get that approved? You get it approved by a unanimous resolution. Is it? Do you have to pass 100% resolution? No. Yeah, that was a check. What you actually have to do is, you will have to pass a resolution without any vote being cast in negative, any vote being cast against it. That means if you have 100 members in the board, right, and 80 of them are voting, then 80 of them should say yes. Even if one of them says no, then that resolution is not passed and you cannot appoint more than one director by a single resolution. Agreed? So that was all about 162. Now, do you think that section 162 is necessary for a private company? Think about it. Think about the working of the private company. We have already discussed certain situations in our previous class and also in the revision now. Keeping that as a base, do you think it is required for a private company? What happens in a private company? If there are 3 directors, A, B and C, for a ABC private limited company, then what will happen is, if they want the 2 more directors, D and E, as their common friend, to enter into the directorship, maybe because they have an expertise or they're bringing an investment, or for whatever be the reason, that is their personal reason, right? It is a privately held company. The 3 directors or the 3 owners of the company, they want to appoint 2 more directors. So is it compulsory that they will go into a cumbersome process of first they'll pass a resolution for one and then they'll pass a resolution for the second? It is not needed, right? Because if 2 directors are present in the board, in the shareholders meeting for appointment, then consider it deemed that they will be appointed. Otherwise they would not be standing over there. Nobody is there to waste rupees 1 lakh, because In a public company, you may expect, okay, shareholders have the right to vote and there are a lot many shareholders, whatever could happen with the voting, right? But in the private company, you already know, yeah, these are the limited members, come on. If they say yes, then only you stand for appointment, right? Nobody will waste their 1 lakh rupees. They will apply it only when they are sure. And when are they sure? When the members themselves call them, or they have already decided, right? So for the formality's sake, they pass a resolution. So in that case, what the company says is, what the act says, okay, what the notification says, okay, you don't need to pass 2 resolutions, let us be done with that process. We know that if you have bought a director over here for appointment, he will be appointed. So just pass a single resolution, let it be done, right? So appointment of directors to be voted individually is entirely, this entire section is exempt for private companies. Section 162 is not applicable on private companies at all, right? That means the appointment can be done by a single resolution. How many directors you want, call them, pass a single resolution, appoint them all. Because that is exactly what is going to happen. It is already predicted. You know there is no way out. No, none of them will be rejected over there, right? And none of them will be even doubtful. It is just a formality sake, right? And everybody knows that. So the act is trying to be a little more practical with that. So they are saying that, okay, we don't need this. We don't need mere formalities. Okay, so that was the provision of section 162 and the exemption. Next we have section 180, restriction on the power of the board. So do you remember section 180 from the meeting of the board and its power, that chapter in directors? We have discussed 180 in detail. So we know that as per section 179 there are various powers given to the board of directors, right? And section 179 says, yeah, certain powers have to be followed or have to be exercised in the board meeting itself. That is section 179 all about, right? But there are certain powers, specifically 4 powers that have been defined as per section 180, for which you will require an approval of the shareholders as well, and that too a special resolution, right? As per your previous act, you had to pass an ordinary resolution, but as per your new act, as per section 180, you will have to pass a special resolution. Remember, we had done this. So what were those 4 things? We'll discuss them and then we'll see the exemption, right? So exemption notification number GSR 464E dated 5th June 2015. If you remember the name, write it down. Even if you don't write it down in your examination, it makes no difference, right? You should just know that, yeah, these are the exemptions. Agreed? Okay. So section 180 shall not apply on private companies. So do you remember the 4 powers of the board that were restricted as per section 180? Come on, be quick. Okay, I'll tell it to you. So the first power you had was about selling, leasing or otherwise disposing of the whole or substantially the whole of an undertaking of the company. Remember? So if you want to sell, lease or dispose of an undertaking of the company, you needed to pass a special resolution for the same. The board cannot decide it on their own, right? Second was to invest the compensation received by the company as a result of a merger or amalgamation. Agreed? So for that also you needed a special resolution. Third was to borrow money if money already borrowed plus money proposed to be borrowed exceeds the aggregate of the paid up share capital and the free reserve of the company. So up to the limit of aggregate of paid up share capital and free reserve, the board was entitled to borrow. But if your borrowing plus your proposed borrowing exceeds that, then you are supposed to pass a special resolution as well. And the last restriction was that if you want to remit or give time to any of your directors, right, to repay their loan that is due to the company, then you need to pass a special resolution. That means the board cannot decide to give more time to a director to repay the loan. Let the members decide, no issues with that, right? So what is the exemption given to the private company? So the private company requires only the board resolution in the board meeting for the following. That means you don't need any SR. For what things? We have discussed the 4 things already, right? Now, can you tell me why this exemption is provided? Now, why don't they need the special resolution of the members for selling, leasing or disposing of the undertaking, or investing the amalgamation proceeds, or borrowing money beyond the limit? Why do you think is that? Because it is not a public company basically, which means it is a private company you have the owners as directors, right? It is a privately held company, so you know who are the owners, you know who are the directors, you know what they're doing. So it will become an unnecessary delay and a cumbersome task to pass a special resolution for doing anything. Who would object? There is no outsider shareholder in a private company, right? The owners themselves. So if they are deciding something to do they need their own approval? No, they don't. In a private company, if a board is deciding something or the members are deciding something, basically it is one of the same things, right? So the power of management entirely vests with the board. If the board wants to sell, lease or dispose of any of its undertaking, it can do it. All you need is, okay, we have 5 members or 4 members, 4 directors on the board, let us all sit and decide. That is it. No individual director will decide on his own and sell it off. That is the restriction. You will have to pass a board resolution, but you do not need to pass a special resolution, right? Because again, calling for a shareholders meeting, then holding that meeting, and then passing a resolution, making it official, and then acting for that will unnecessarily cause a delay. You agree with my point, right? So that is why an exemption was given. A notification says that you don't need to go through this cumbersome process, because that is useless. We know that the members would not deny. Who would deny? There is no outsider to deny. They have decided and they want their own approval, right? It is a mere formality that is very well applicable for public company, that is needed over there, but that is not needed for a private company. So the notification says it is exempted. Pass the board resolution, carry on your work, no other issues, right? Understood? And on a private note, on a practical note, if you understand this, then what would be the effect? It would basically ease out the approval for slump sale and the asset sales transaction by the private company. If you want to make a slump sale, you can do that, right? You don't need to again go by the cumbersome procedure for that. Agreed? Okay. So next we have section 184, the disclosure of interest by directors. Remember this section? We have a very small exemption over here, right? It is again a one-liner exemption, but before going to that, we would first discuss what section 184 says. That will act as a revision for you as well, plus you will understand. It will help you to understand it better as to where we have the exemption in 184, right? So as per 184, the board of directors or the director who was interested in any contract should disclose his shareholding in whichever company or whatever contract he is entering into, in his first meeting of the board, in the first meeting of every financial year, and the first meeting after the change, after there is a change. If he wants to change the disclosure that he has already made, right, after the situation changes, he will have to disclose it into the next board meeting, right? And what would he disclose, and when would he disclose? So a director, if he is directly or indirectly, right, if he is concerned or interested in any contract or arrangement which is either present or which is proposed by the company to be entered, right, then he would have to disclose to the board of directors when that contract is discussed, right? And then he was not allowed to participate in that because he is interested, right? He would be biased. So even if he talks in favor or against the contract, then that would also not be very good. And even if he votes, that vote would not be actually fair for the company, right? So what they said is, if the director is interested, please disclose your interest, and you would not participate at all in the board meeting, right? And what was the consequences? So if a director does not disclose and attends the meeting and even votes for the resolution, votes for the contract, then that contract becomes voidable at the option of the company, right? And that board of director, or sorry, that director would be punishable with a imprisonment of 1 year and a fine which may range from 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees or both. So that was basically the provision of 184, right? And okay, one more thing, when would he be considered to be interested? He would be considered if he holds more than 2% of the shareholding, right, either self or in association with somebody else in any body corporate, or if he is a promoter, manager, or the CFO of that body corporate. And in case of firm, if it is a partnership firm, if he is a partner, he is interested. In a sole proprietorship firm, if he is the owner, he is interested. And in an AOP BOI, if he is a member, he is considered to be interested, right? So that was about the provisions of 184. Agreed with it? Now we'll look forward to the exemptions in 184. So, as per the exemption notification number GSR 464E, dated 5th June 2015, right? Section 184 shall not apply on a private company. One-liner exemption. So what does that mean? It means that the notification provides that an interested director may participate in the board meeting after disclosing his interest. Okay. That means the disclosure of interest by director, that provision is still applicable. That means you have to disclose your interest. Where again? In the first board meeting after being interested, first board meeting everywhere, and wherever there is a change. And when? If you are interested, directly or indirectly, in any contract or arrangement, either present or proposed, right? And the interest is again the same thing, 2% in the body corporate, greater than 2% holding in the body corporate, owner of the proprietor firm, partner of the partnership, member of AOP BOI, the same situation, right? And you have to disclose it in the board meeting in which it is discussed. But the exemption that the private company gets is that even after disclosure, they are allowed to attend the board meeting. They are allowed to participate in the board meeting. That means they are even allowed to vote in the board meeting. Agreed? But remember, the relaxation is subject to the director providing his disclosure, right, in the prescribed form. Now think, why was all the private company given this exemption? Why did the notification specify an exemption from section 184? Now again, let us consider a situation. Let us take an example now. Suppose there is a private company, AB Private Limited, which has only 2 directors. You know, that is the limit. A private company can have a minimum of 2 directors, right? So that company had 2 directors. One of them is interested. Can they hold a board meeting? Can they discuss it now? If one of them is interested or both of them are interested in a contract, will they ever be able to pass a contract, pass a resolution? No. After disclosing their interest, if they are not allowed to vote and not allowed to participate, they will not be able to conduct that board meeting. You understand what I mean to say, right? So prior to this exemption, the private companies basically found it very difficult to comply with the provisions of 184, and this was the basic reason. At most of the scenario, in most of the situations, there would be this problem that directors are not able to participate, and hence they cannot meet the criteria of quorum and they cannot hold a board meeting. So the absence of disinterested director brought a very serious compliance issue, right? So for that, this provision was given as an exemption to the private company. So they are not required to follow the provisions of 184, but there is no complete exemption from 184. That means they will have to make the disclosure at least. So if there are 2 to 3 directors and they are sitting for discussing over a resolution, over a contract that is supposed to be entered, right, and one of the directors is interested, so what will he do is he will disclose, okay, listen buddies, I am interested. If you are entering into this contract, you are entering it with this person and I am interested, I hold 10% share of that body corporate. So it's okay. You have made the disclosure, that was the requirement of the act and we already know it. Come on, let's sit down, let's discuss now what is to be done with this. Let us pass a resolution and get into the contract. Right? Because try and understand, we are dealing with private companies. These are privately owned companies. You don't have public interference over there. They're all known directors. They're all known owners. Right? They'll mutually do everything. These formalities, the provisions of these sections are mere formalities for private companies. Right? They have already decided before setting into the meeting what is to be done with the contract. If there are 2 to 3 directors, they will not wait. Okay, Thursday we have the board meeting. Okay, Thursday we'll discuss. We'll not talk about it. No. Over a cup of coffee, they've already discussed what is to be done. Just because of a mere formality, they will call a board meeting. They will sit. They will have a party over there. They'll discuss, and then they'll pass a resolution and record it into the register. Finish. Right? That is a formality. So to ease out that cumbersome process, to help them in compliance, to help them to comply with the provisions of these sections, this exemption was provided to them. That first of all you disclose and then again you participate, because without your participation you will not be able to comply with the provisions. You will not be able to pass that resolution. right? You understand? So that is it. So now I hope you people are getting the feel of why these exemptions are coming up. Why has these exemptions been notified? Right? Because that was basically a requirement. Because the act is not framed to actually put a burden on somebody. It is framed for convenience process. So that things are recorded, things are in track. It has a proper format, proper channel, right? And everything is done in a standard way. All of the companies follow a standard protocol, standard way for the same thing, right? But if that protocol, right, or your purpose, you are making an attempt to ease out the procedure, to create a standard procedure for everybody, but that if that brings out a problem, then you will have to forego that, right? And so that is what they have done. Where it was not needed, they have given an exemption. Other places where it is needed, it is still applicable, and that will help the company, right? So that is all that we'll discuss in the class today. We'll continue the provisions of the next. We have, I think, 4 sections remaining. We'll cover it up in the next lecture itself, right? So until then, it is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you. Bye bye.